Today on the Relationship Renovation podcast, we're going to go through a lesson that comes out of our program, and it's all about boundaries. It's about knowing where are the lines that each of you have and how can you communicate about them in a really healthy way. We're going to take you step by step through a series of questions that you can hear Tara and I processing through, and then you can jot these down and you can bring them back to your partner and get to know them better. So please stay tuned. This is a great episode. It's definitely going to give you some stuff that you can do with your partner immediately.
Hello, all, and welcome to the Relationship Renovation Podcast. I'm Tara Kerwin.
And my name is EJ Kerwin. And today we're going to jump right in. Occasionally what we do in an episode is we take a lesson out of our workbook. And we have a program that we've put together both in online form, a relationship renovation at home, but also here at our center in Tucson, where therapists lead couples through a real structured approach to what we've found is a way to rebuild the foundation of your relationship. And today, we're going to lead you through another one of our episodes. And the way that we like to do it is basically Tara and I do it together. And you can kind of take notes, and a lot of these things can be things that you can they can be conversation starters for you and your partner. And really what it's about is just clarifying for yourself what's going on around an issue, and therefore also being able to communicate in a clear and hopefully kind way with your partner about what's going on.
Right. We hope that going through some of our exercises that we developed together will just get that engine turning, thoughts starting to be like, oh, I didn't even think about that. That's kind of our goal here to do that. And, so when we're doing sessions with couples, it's a lot of process in session. So these are all at-home exercises for our couples to do outside of the therapy session. And then they can kind of come back that next week and be like, wow, we really hit a roadblock here, or wow, we really had these epiphanies here. And so again, it's thoughtful conversations to have outside of the therapy session, and it can be very enlightening.
Absolutely. And I think and this is a little bit of personal sharing. Sometimes I think couples avoid difficult conversations. I know sometimes I avoid difficult conversations when it's not the perfect atmosphere, right? And so, one thing I want to share this morning is I'm kind of having a low morning. I'm kind of in a little bit of a funk. It's not normal for me. It doesn't feel good. And this might be a time where I might not want to get into, maybe do an exercise. And so I guess what I'm saying is there doesn't have to be a perfect time. Right. In fact, in some ways, it's a really positive thing, no matter what is going on within a couple or an individual, that you take the time to reflect and communicate with one another. So I'm jumping into this in a place where I'm feeling a little just not totally myself. But I'm going to go for it anyway.
I've got you, EJ.
Thank you, honey.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
So today, boundaries are a very, very important and vital piece of healthy, intimate relationships. And so before we enter our kind of intimacy exercises with our couples, we always work on boundaries first to make sure that there's that emotional safety so that we can enter our intimacy series. So we really wanted to go through our boundaries portion. And the first piece is kind of, we have people kind of circle on a scale 1 through 5, 1 is disagree, 5 is agree. But we don't want it to just, circle that number. We want it to be a thoughtful conversation even after you've circled that number. And so that's what we're going to be role modeling today.
Yeah. And boundaries, I think it's important to define a little bit. Where are my limits? What am I willing to do? What am I not willing to do?
What is okay? What is not okay?
What is okay? What is not okay? Absolutely. And it's important for your partner to know where your boundaries are around, conflict, around parenting, around intimacy. It's important for me to know where Tara's boundaries are, because if I cross them, there's a high likelihood that that's going to create a negative reaction for her. And I might not, if she hasn't let me know where a boundary is, then, I might cross it and not even know it and then be confused and maybe then reactive myself.
And it's very important that you know your own boundaries. So yes, it's great when your partner knows your boundary, but if you don't have or know your own boundaries, that's going to be a problem, because then you guys are going to be crossing boundaries left and right, and it's going to feel very enmeshed. and it's not going to feel good. So one of the first parts, again, a lot of the work we do is individual work for the sake of the couple. It's exploring what are my own boundaries first, and then we open it up to the couple. And so one of the first questions is, I look to myself first to fulfill my individual needs.
Well, I'll answer that first. I would say if 5 is I agree very much so, and 1 is I don't agree at all, I would say probably, being honest, probably like a 4. And at first, it's funny. At first, I was going to say like 5. And I think that's more my story and less of, because I think there are times where I do look to others or hope. I don't always maybe communicate it best. But I would say my infrastructure kind of leads me a lot of times to first looking to myself to take care of my own needs.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
For me, again, I look to myself first to fulfill my individual needs. I'm going to go with a 1, that I'm very much, I come last always. It's just how I've been my whole life. I'm a super duper caretaker, sometimes in unhealthy ways. I'm working on that to know that I have to take care of myself first in order to take care of others. But no, I'm not great at taking care of myself individually first, but I'm getting better.
Yeah. So do you think it's important, Tara, when a couple goes through this exercise so it's interesting that I was on one side of the scale and you were on the other side of the scale,
Well, and it's something you say all the time, somehow men just are easier at taking care of themselves than women. And I don't know if that's the genetics, the nurturing, the mother in me. I'm not sure. It's I'm the last to put my laundry away. I'm the last to feed myself. I'm the last to get ready. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The last to make my lunch doesn't matter.
Well, and that causes some uncomfortable moments between us sometimes as well.
Right. And so again, me working on that, recognize that sometimes it is unhealthy, and some of it is just the mom in me, and it's okay too.
Well, and then conversely, the same thing for me, that I know sometimes it's easier for me to make time for myself, to take care of my own needs, and that it's not necessarily important that I always look to somebody else to meet my needs or whatever, but it's important for me to be aware of you, that you might not take care of yourself, and I might have to find ways to support you in that.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so moving on to question 2, and I can already tell this is going to be a 2-part series, because do you see how just that first question, I feel more connected, I understand better, we understand what goes on there around fulfilling our own individual needs first, and there's about 20 questions in this, exercise. So the next question is, and I think that this is so important, and we ask every couple pretty early on, how confident do I feel in identifying my relationship needs? Obviously, here we're talking about a coupleship, but it's also important to talk about this within family relationships or friendships. But again, I feel confident in identifying my relationship needs. And again, 1 is disagree, 5 is agree. I feel very confident in identifying my relationship needs, and I'm often letting you know them. So I would say I'm at about a 4.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think we're different here. I wouldn't put myself all the way down at a 1, but I might put myself at a 2.5 or something. That I don't always know what I need, and then when I hit a point where I get low or something, I think I get confused because I'm not sure, exactly what's going on for me, and so I'm not exactly sure a lot of times what my needs are in relationship,
So here's where I just feel like I'm perfect, because you're never saying you need anything really. Yeah. So I'm cool, I must be doing a really good job.
Yeah.
So again, kind of I'm working on that first one around taking care of myself first. What kind of work do you think you want to do around this one?
I think just one, clarifying, just sitting down and doing some personal work around what is important to me. And then I think for me, part of it is developing the ability to know how and when to communicate them, because I feel sometimes I just don't know the right time to do it, because it feels you take on so much. And in that first question, that you're always taking care of everybody else before you, that it feels well, if I ask Tara for this, it's just going to be one more thing. It's just going to stress her out. I'll just bury it. We have this one social media post where I'm like
Yeah.
out in the backyard digging a hole, and Tara's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "No, just burying my emotions back
Right.
here."
But we also know, right, EJ, that's one of the worst things that couples can do. Like, you don't tell me your needs in the relationship, then you grow resentful, then you stuff it all down, and then it all comes out and it's toxic. And that's where, again, we've talked about this in another podcast, but you have to trust that I can handle it, because you not doing that, and I get it, you're caretaking me, but that also means like you don't trust that I could handle what your relationship needs are. And then that's not fair either.
Yeah. And then there's other stuff that comes into this for people, for myself, is like, just old attachment stuff of just like, I just have an operating system where it's just like, take care of yourself, keep it all tight, don't show people what you're feeling. And because if you show people what you're feeling, nothing good will come of it.
Yeah. And I just really want to create that safety for you so you can grow and expand out of that old attachment style.
I'm working on it.
Please, all of us, we need to just get out of that.
Yes.
Okay, so next question. I love this question.
All right.
I seek emotional connection with the people who care about me. So again, this is about vulnerability, really. And we know that in relationships, being able to kind of break down those walls and look for support outside of just yourself makes you feel connected to your partner and less alone. So I seek emotional connection with the people who care about me. EJ, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. It's weird because I feel like this is like almost like I'm being like doing an opposite of that last one, but saying like, I would put myself in the 3.5 or a 4 in this, because I really do. Like, I'm not happy being an island all unto myself. I really do feel wonderful when I'm connected to you. I feel amazing. Like, we had this amazingly connected summer, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I love when I'm connected to my kids and my friends. I mean, I really do want those connections. Like, they feel really good. They make me feel whole. I understand that relationship is where, is the most rewarding part of life for me. It really is. So I'm high on that.
I would say I feel very similar. I'm very much an emotional connection seeker. And I'm thinking about what happens if couples are answering this and they are kind of low on that seeking emotional connection. Maybe the partner can be like, hey, is there anything I can do that would create an environment that would feel more comfortable, more safe? So again, whether you're high or low, it's about having a conversation around, well, I really want to be that person that you go to. So what can I do that would make that more possible?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm an emotional seeker.
You are an emotional seeker. I believe that.
Okay, so moving on. This is a good one. I maintain my values no matter what other people say or believe. I'll go first.
You wanna go first? Yeah, sure.
I'm very high on that scale because values are really important to me. Values like loyalty, trust, safety, providing safety. No matter what other people say or believe or my perceptions of that, I'm definitely very true at sticking to my values. And I don't let those values get disrupted because I'm a big fan of emotional safety.
Yeah. I maintain my values. Say that again for me.
I maintain my values no matter what other people say or believe.
Yeah. So yes, this is a really tough one for me, because it's like, I think I do maintain my values, but I struggle when there's like a lot of conflict around it.
Can you give an example?
If I like stand up for something with you that didn't feel good for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then it leads to like a moderate to high level of conflict between the two of us, I struggle to stick with it in that moment because it starts to like not feel safe. So it's not like I don't abandon it, but I pull back.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like really uncomfortable with those moments where it feels like everything's like falling apart, or I feel threatened or whatever. And so I think I never completely abandon them, but in moments I step back from them because I'm not sure how to assert myself in that moment, because what my instinct in that moment is to alleviate the conflict,
Right.
and not necessarily stick with where my heart is.
So, and here's something that's interesting. This has probably happened to you over and over 10 years.
Together? Yeah,
you?
for sure. Yeah.
You've never told me this. It's the first time.
Interesting. Well, thank God we're doing this lesson. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We don't talk about these things. We keep them separate. So now I'm like, oh, I had no idea that you abandon or temporarily abandon your values in order to fix conflict. I get it because I know you're conflict avoidant, but I had no idea. So now I can be like, wow, EJ, how would I know that that's happening for you? Because I don't want you to repeat everything you've done in the past. I want you to be able to feel safe. So how do I know that you're abandoning them? Would you be like, hey, Tara, got to let you know in that conflict we just had, my value is this, and I started to go from it so I can understand better?
Yeah. I mean, I think what I would need to do is I would need to say, hey, like, I know we were just talking about this, but now I'm having a hard time sticking with that because now I feel like I'm managing our conflict and I'm feeling like it's getting out of control and it's feeling overwhelming. And so it's hard for me to stick with kind of what began this topic, which was something that I care a lot about. But now I'm in sort of the triage of just like trying to, I guess control the outcome is that I don't want you to get more upset with me, or I don't want you to misunderstand and think my intentions are bad or whatever. Or I don't want to hurt you or.
Yeah. But again, this is where you have to trust that I can handle it. It's not about you trying to control the outcome for me, because that's caretaking and that's not healthy for you in those moments.
Well, I'm not necessarily caretaking you though in those moments, even though that's what it might feel like.
Well,
I'm really
like that.
I'm really taking care of myself because the conflict has reached a level where I'm going into my autonomic responses and I'm feeling like this isn't safe.
Right.
And so I'm either retreating or I'm what feels like protecting myself.
Well, it's like you're lost in a lot of thought.
Yeah.
How can I not escalate this? How can I take care of myself? How can I not make this worse for her? How can I not make this worse for me? So instead of all of that heady stuff, what's going to be really important? I know you just said it, but I want
just telling you what I'm feeling, that I feel like scared. I feel sad. I feel overwhelmed.
Yep.
I'm confused. That's what happens a lot of it for me because I'm like, gosh, I came into this with really positive intentions about just sharing something. And now it feels like it's an argument. And how did that happen? I think that's one of the things I get lost in is like, how did this just happen? Like I thought I approached this in a nice way. And now it feels like I'm being seen as a bad person. And that's a big narrative we struggle with in our arguments, right? Is like, I end up back in this place of like, I'm not a bad person. I was just trying to like tell you something. And now it feels like I've done something wrong by telling you that.
So me now knowing that your trigger or your word might be like, I feel confused. Now I can be like, oh, this is where he's going to start to either like avoid, go away a little. So you do what you need to do to take care of yourself. We come back to it.
Yeah.
Okay. See how much we're learning. And we do this work all the time anyway.
I know.
Okay, so the next question is, I can communicate my needs and feelings directly and kindly.
I would say I'm like a 3.5 in that. I feel like I can do that. My struggle is the continuing of the conversation, the ongoing getting to a solution or getting to a place of feeling heard. And like, I think I can do it. It's just sticking in it if it gets complicated.
Yeah. Got to help you get more sticky.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like I communicate my needs sometimes kindly, but sometimes more out of resentment and mistrust. So I'm going to say for me, I'm going to go with like a 2.5. See, here you guys go. We're being vulnerable and open. Like I usually have to communicate my needs when I start to get resentful or frustrated, instead of just like on a day that's really good, like, hey, EJ, it would be really important to me if you kind of took this over today because I'm feeling, a little overwhelmed or whatever it might be. I kind of wait until it gets a little overwhelming. So I'm kind of working on how to talk about parenting, co-parenting, blended family stuff in a way that feels in a neutral way, which I think we're doing a better job of that.
Like before it's already kind of reached a boiling point.
Yes. So again, just talking with your partner, how do we communicate more directly and kindly? because that is going to be the best outcome for you guys to have some type of resolution and feeling connected in whatever it is that you guys are talking about.
Well, and that's always a struggle, like, right? Like honest and kind.
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm really mad. I
Yes.
just want you to know that you really pissed me off.
Yes.
Okay. Just a couple more questions here. I can take care of myself when I feel emotionally vulnerable. So that means I can soothe, I can navigate this internally in my body when I'm starting to feel emotionally raw.
Yeah, I would give myself a 4 here. Like I'm good when I can get perspective. Like if there's a time where I'm feeling really raw, when I'm feeling hurt, when I'm feeling sad, like if I have a little bit of time, I can gain perspective. I can talk my way through into a place of, all of my positive feelings towards you and get out of any negative narratives that I might like fall into about you. Like and then once I get there, I know I can take that responsibility and I can calm myself down and then come back to you and talk to you in a kind and respectful way about it. So I feel like I'm pretty good about that.
Perfect. It's so funny when I hear you talk. It's like you're just so different from me, and you're always like narrative, perspective, like thought thinking. And I'm like so somatic in my body. Like that is how we significantly are different in these emotional, vulnerable moments. Because for me, I'm getting better. I would say I'm like at a 3.5 maybe. I go internally and maybe my heart's racing. Maybe I feel tense everywhere. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm okay right now. I feel safe. Everything's okay. And so I really calm my internal body. I don't really go with thoughts because my thoughts aren't good for me. So I go internally and then I don't get hijacked into that flight, fight, or freeze.
I think the positive thing between the two of us is we both have similar objectives. We just go about it in different ways.
Exactly. Well, no, and that's, I don't know if this is a male female thing either, but like our brains are different. And so I just know for me, I have to like get okay and safe in my body with my bodily responses. For you, it's like you've got to shift that narrative to make that feel more better and get a better perspective. It's just different.
I just know how powerful my thoughts are if I don't look at what they are and whether they feel true to my values. And if they don't feel true to my values, then I have to shift them. I have to change them. I have that control,
Absolutely. Okay. Last question.
Sure. Last question.
I can be assertive in healthy ways. So assertive in healthy ways means I can ask for what I want in a way that feels safe for me and for others. So we always say like it's kind of the difference between assertive and aggressive. We have a lot of couples that come in here with very passive aggressive undertones, and we try to help them understand what is it that you're really trying to say. And there might be a little tinge of resentment that's bringing on that passive aggression. And how can we be assertive in a healthy way? Like, hey, hon, I'm feeling really lonely in the relationship. We haven't had a date night in a month. I would love it if you and I could like make sure we plan something instead of like, God, we haven't had a date night in a month. I'm so sick of this. Like, we don't even take care. You guys know we could go down that rabbit hole. And so I'm going to say I can be assertive in healthy ways. I feel like I'm doing really well with that. I would say I'm like at a 4.
All right. So can I be assertive in healthy ways? Yes, absolutely. But I would still give myself a little bit lower of a mark in the 3.5 range because I think I definitely have room for growth around this. I'm always like sort of struggling with the boundary for myself between letting go of something that is just like, because there are things in relationship where you just let go of it. You're like, you know what? I'm like hooked on this and I love this person and I know they're aware and they're working on their own stuff and they're working on our stuff. And so the difference between letting go sometimes and then not being assertive for me gets a little blurry and knowing like when are the times I really have to say something. So I think I can be it. I need to get better about maybe sometimes not doing it because I just avoid it.
And see, so yeah, this first part of it is really about assessing your own internal belief system, value system, regulation system, and saying, gosh, here's where these are my strengths, and here's where I can really grow. Now I know the areas where you want to grow. It's during very uncomfortable moments when you're feeling vulnerable that there's this point where you start to get really confused and you start to back away a little. And now I get to be like, oh, I know that might be happening for EJ now. So how can I support him?
Well, and the one of the big takeaways from you is standing up for your boundaries before the point where you feel like they've been tread over and over and you're in a place of resentment is a big area of growth for you. And I got to figure out my way of supporting you in that, of just noticing when you need help and just making sure that I ask and let you know, and then trust that if you say yes, that you mean yes. And if you say no, that you legitimately are okay. I just have to continue to check in with you in a kind way, in a loving way, with soft, supportive words. I know, and that's based upon other conversations we've had recently.
Yeah. So again, we always have growth to do. We're never perfect, which perfect is boring anyway. So we really hope that you found this helpful, you found this useful, you found this enlightening, that you can jot down some of these questions, talk to your partner about them, and we'll do our next episode, part 2.
Yeah,
and
we'll do the second half.
Those are some more vulnerable questions, and they're not on a scale. It's really questions before we kind of enter our intimate series. So they're great questions to explore, but really do this assessment piece first for yourself.
Yeah. And one thing that we know, and we learned early on in our work with couples, is that when you have a structured way to approach getting to know yourself better, getting to know your partner better, being able to communicate in healthy ways around difficult topics, that your relationship will get better, your intimate connection will get better. And, we've created in-office programs, but we also know that we have now, listeners all over the world. And what we've done is we've created a relationship renovation at home. It's a structured way to rebuild the foundation of your relationship. And it's available on our website, relationshiprenovation.com, under our at-home programs. There's also a link in our show notes. But it is just an amazing way for you and your partner to have lessons like this that you go through together, to watch videos of Tara and I talking about the lesson, giving you guidance, and just investing time on a weekly basis in building your relationship up, because we know when your relationship feels solid, when it feels loving, when it feels kind, everything else in your life is easier.
More manageable.
When your relationship is really struggling, everything else seems much more overwhelming, insurmountable. So we really encourage you to check out Relationship Renovation at Home. We know you'll get a lot out of it.
And just, again, thank you today for listening. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we've got you.
We've got you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Me and you just singing on the train. Me and you listening to the rain. Me and you, we are the same. Me and you have all the fame we need. Indeed, you and me are we.